Hello, welcome inside the Hera Press Box. October 29th, our 34th episode. You got any numbers? 34?
The only one I could come up with was Sylvia Fowles.
Sylvia Fowles. Okay. I was
Yeah.
trying to think of the Lynx player that wore 34, so same wavelength there, right?
Uh-huh.
For tonight, a couple of recaps of different leagues. One of those, the W League, the other one, the NWHL. I assume you want to tackle the W League if you want to go with that.
Yeah, I can.
Start off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can. So we had 4 matches over the past weekend. Here, wins by Brisbane Roar over Sydney FC. Perth Glory over Melbourne City 4-1. I think I kind of jinxed Melbourne City. I feel sorry for them now that I'm a fan of theirs. Melbourne Victory 1 over Canberra United 2-1, and then Newcastle Jets 1-1 over Western Sydney Wanderers. Sam Kerr, of course, had a great game. Rachel Hill had an unbelievable game, 2 goals and assist with her first match down under. Goal by Emily Sonnet as well for Sydney FC. As well as some other NWSL players getting some goals. So it was a great weekend for NWSL players.
Yeah, saw every game had an NWSL goal scorer in it. That was a headline or a tweet that I saw. So yeah, that was
Yep.
That's cool to see.
Let's see. So Sonnet, Sam Kerr, Rachel Hill, that was the same game. Nicola Bolger, I think, also plays in the NWSL, if I'm not mistaken. And then let's see, Kristen McNabb and Natasha Dowie and Katie Stengel were the goals from the NWSL as far as, unless I missed something. But you can watch the games here in the U.S. on Oz.com, OZ.com is what it is. I think it's $5 a month. I haven't gotten it yet. I wanted to wait it out the first weekend just to see what comments were. And the comments were as anticipated. Just like with Go90, there was some lagging behind and some pausing during the game. So I'm a wee bit nervous, and I'm not sure if they play replays at all, because most likely I'm not going to be getting up at 1:30, 2:30 in the morning to be watching these games. So I got to look into it more to see if they will actually, if they hold on to the games and you can watch them at a later time, which my assumption is no, but we shall see. That might be better off than watching it live anyways, because apparently it doesn't work. So we've got to Go90 Junior. Yeah, Oz.com. It's Go90 Junior is pretty much what it is. So it's going to be great.
I did see the NFL game they're doing on Go90.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, the Sunday night game tonight, so I don't know how that went, but I'm sure there was a little bit more production money spent on that game.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for taking care of the W League. Mm-hmm. For the NWHL, also in that league's first weekend of the season, there were 2 matches. Obviously, the 4 teams, Buffalo and Connecticut. Buffalo won 3-2. And then the Metropolitan Riveters won 4-1 over Boston. As you can now expect, no big names in the scoring column because of what we found out on Thursday, or talked about on Thursday, as far as players leaving for the Olympics. Yeah, but 2 good games. I've only seen highlights of those games, and so I got on YouTube, and one of them had been streamed online, and I did not know that was going to become a thing.
Yeah.
And I also found out that they have a deal with Twitter this year. So, and I think so. I'm assuming that game that was on YouTube was streamed live on Twitter. So I don't. That's not promoted on the website, right, or what hadn't been talked about. We didn't know about it, so I'm not sure how to find a schedule of what games will be online.
Interesting. Yeah, I out of anything that I've read so far about the league, I have not come across anything that mentioned either being streamed on YouTube or on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. So we did talk about the Olympics having an effect on players, and there was an article that I read that had a quote from the NWHLPA president Anya Battaglino, and her quote was that she thinks it's going to be business as usual. She expects people to still show up to the games and fall in love with newer players, is what she said, and that the season runs through March. The Olympics will finish up in February. So, assuming that these players are going to show up in game shape since they've just finished the Olympics, they should have a solid month of playtime in the NWHL leading into the playoffs.
Yeah. And I read that article too, and I thought that that was being optimistic with her saying it's going to be business as usual. I think that you're still going to get fans to come, obviously, and you can hope, or the hope is that the NWHL can kind of create this marketing scheme to build up hockey before the Olympics. This is kind of the perfect time for them to pretty much go all out with their marketing scheme. So it's a little bit interesting again that we haven't heard anything about them streaming games on Twitter, because this is an opportunity for them to really put themselves out on the map and say, hey, let's just not watch hockey every 4 years. Let's watch it every year, and let's support this league that's been here for some time now. And let's make it a great league, and let's make it so that it can grow.
Yeah, and you mentioned, so might as well jump into this as the transition presents itself. The ability or the opportunity to really promote the women's game here before the Olympics start, and the NWHL has yet to capitalize on that from our eyes, what we've seen. But the league that I made you do a little research on, the CWHL, the Canadian Women's Hockey League. What they have done is they added 2 teams in China for this season, and that was because of the Olympics being in South Korea. They wanted to push the game over there before those Olympics started, to spur some interest and grow the game globally. So I guess, depending on how much you looked up or what you found out in your research, is what I did with mine. Well, here's what we can talk about. And I guess the one big thing that you sent to me was the lack of support from the male professional leagues. The Flames and the Leaves and the Canadians are all sponsors, partners of the CWHL. But other than that, even though the NHL doesn't have any ownership over the CWHL like the NBA does with the WNBA, we have yet to see any commitment from the male professional league. And that is really shown in this article, which was a sort of, I don't know if it wasn't a completely professionally written article in the fact that, I mean, this guy might not have been paid to write this article. It was more of an opinion piece, but it talks about how the goal scorer of the game-winning goal in the championship match, a rookie, was asked to donate her stick to the Hall of Fame, and that was one of her only 2 sticks that she had, and would have had to purchase more sticks for the upcoming tournament that she was to play in with her own money. So the question was raised, why isn't the NHL stepping forward and donating anything towards this league as far as time or money resources are concerned?
Right. And I've had up until I read this article, I had a pretty hard stance on, I didn't know how I felt about the Riveters teaming up with the NHL. I was very uneasy about it, I guess, and I still kind of am in a way, but just this article pointed out what the NHL could possibly be doing. I mean, it's not even that much. It doesn't need to be anything significant on their end, but it's going to be making a significant impact on these women and on this league to put some sort of financial support behind them. And I don't think it, like I said, I don't think it needs to be too significant. And the article brought up the fact of, our teams are they going to be okay with losing money, at least right now? Are they going to be okay with that, but start to make money kind of on the long-term deal and side of things? So that's something that I guess I never really thought of in terms of what it actually meant to back them and what it actually meant to partner with them. For me, I think it comes from just, I don't see the support out in public. You can have a financial backing of a team, but if there's no support between the two teams, then to me there's a disconnect. And so that's why I'm hesitant about it. But I understand it and I get it. But I wish it was just a better relationship between the two teams.
You're still talking about the Riveters and the Devils?
I'm just talking about in general. I think, I'm trying to find in this article here, it brought up the Boston team had like practice with the Bruins at some point, and one of the players said it sounded like the guys were talking to them as if they were a youth league and not a professional women's hockey league or a hockey team. So that's what makes me hesitant about it.
So it's the players,
right?
Right.
In this situation, right?
Because
there's just a disconnect.
Because it's sort of similar to when I always say that the Chicago Toyota Park doesn't have anything Red Stars whatsoever, right? That's what you're getting at here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so the CWHL, it's been around for 10 years. No, 10 years now.
Yeah, 10.
And then obviously the NWHL, a lot shorter of a time frame than that. 2015 is when the NWHL started. And the question that I asked or wanted to ask you to kind of get us both thinking about this was, which league is better off? Yeah, I guess it's as simple as that. And
right.
Off the bat, I'm sure you can create your own opinion, but both of those articles that we read and the more we figured out, and I don't know, it might have changed your opinion, I guess, or is the CWHL so far along that it's going to be tough now to beat out this NWHL, which even though they're cutting back player salaries by 50%, maybe they're starting to get that momentum with the men's side of things, with the marketing in the Northeast. So comparing these two, what are your big thoughts on where these leagues are at?
Right. So when I first looked up the CWHL and just kind of started doing my own research on it earlier tonight, the first article I do believe that popped up was that for the first time they were going to be paying their players. So we had this league that has been existing for 10 years, and they just started to pay their players. So in that aspect, I'm kind of like, well, they have something figured out. They have somehow figured out how to keep their players, and they've essentially gotten this group of women that are realizing, it's the same with the NWHL, that they're not just playing for them, they're playing for future generations, and they get that and they're fully on board with that. So that was a little bit mind-blowing to me that they just started paying their players, and obviously it's not anything too significant as far as the salary goes.
Yeah, so that is now that they are paying players, that's a threat to the NWHL, right?
Right. Yeah, because you see, I mean, Hillary Knight played in the CWHL, but that was probably, before the NWHL was created. I forgot what it said, what year she played. But yeah, I mean, obviously, and with NWHL cutting their salaries in half, that's not helping them. It's helping the CWHL. So it's going to be quite the year, I think, in women's hockey to see what it's like. I think that the CWHL adding the 2 Chinese teams was a great idea to help grow the sport, but it's also going to be restricting players that can go and play because they're going to have to take, a week off to go travel.
So when I had initially thought of this as a topic that we should cover soon, and tonight was the night that I brought it up, I had wanted to look up, and I didn't until right now when I type it in, and there's even an article on Excel Sports from February of this year about the 2 leagues merging together.
Yep, yeah. Yeah, that had crossed my mind too, and in the sense of when you first told me about it and told me to start doing research, and it's just kind of like, why don't you just merge?
Yeah, there has to be some kind of holdup, right? I don't know. It could even be as simple as pride, that there's no reason that there's not merging together.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess we'll come back to this topic. Excel Sports, Hockey News, Sportsnet in Canada, and Hockey in Society are the first 4 articles that I pulled up. That might be worth reading. So yeah, we can look more into that, and maybe as time goes on, we can talk more about that potential, that possibility. I did that article that you did send me that you talked about for a few minutes. I enjoyed hearing the comparison to the WNBA.
Right.
I thought that was very well put, and it's the WNBA. It's not always been, I guess, a model league for the fact that there was a lot of change, there was a lot of loss, but that's it's not going to be perfect, and that's what the WNBA went through, and so I think that's why it was great to compare this hockey league with that, because it's not going to be perfect, but you see where the WNBA is now in the strides they continue to make.
Right. And you see essentially how long it's taken them to just get to where they are too. And that it's going to take time. This isn't something that's going to be fixed in 2, 3, even 5 years we're talking about. So it's not just a quick fix.
Yeah. So I also wanted to go back on something else we talked about on Thursday. That was Dana Castellanos. And I want to go back to it because there was an article written in ESPNW. I don't know if I put the author that wrote that, but he was basically sticking up for Dana, sort of like what we were doing here on Thursday. And he wasn't necessarily calling out Rapinoe, and when it was time for him to dive into Rapinoe and really bash her for the lack of respect that she showed for this up and coming huge talent in the world, went towards sort of putting more blame on FIFA. So it was a good read. I enjoyed reading it. He did have quotes. He had a quote from Castellanos, and that quote was, "I don't have comments about that. She has her opinion. She is still an idol for me." That was from Castellanos. The Florida State coach declined to comment, and then the Florida State captain, Natalia Kuika, she said, "We're all women. We all should support one another, especially now we're talking about all the equality in the soccer game, and I think we should hold each other in a better standard and not focus on shaming and putting your own women down."
Yeah, that's exactly right. She could have done so much better with what she said. There are so many other things she could have used to back up her point, but instead she chose to tear down someone who really has no say whatsoever whether or not she's nominated or in the final 3. Yeah, she can participate in the fan vote and vote for herself, but the fan vote is only going to take her so far in the voting process. She could have very easily said, "Hey, you know what? Sam Kerr probably should have been in the top 3. And you know what? Maybe Lloyd should have been in the top 3. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, I like the 3 quotes that you brought up from her, and then from her captain, and then from her coach. Extremely professional response from her. She had the opportunity to kind of lay into her, but then still called her an idol of hers. And I'm glad the coach took this step, the professional way as well. And I'm really glad the captain took the position that she took. I thought that was huge, and that was what a captain is supposed to do.
Yeah, and that's my thinking. So we're now 6 days removed from Rapinoe's quote, and as far as I know, and as far as my research searching got me tonight, Rapinoe's made no other comment about it. No apologies. Nothing to recognize what Castellanos has done already in her 2 years at Florida State, and so I went through
her country.
Right, yeah, or her country, which was what she was up in the award for. So, and I just kind of went through just to give a better idea of what Castellanos, where she stands at a global knowing. So in Chris Henderson's 2020 big board, she is number 2 behind Jessie Fleming. Henderson mentions that she was the Golden Boot winner at the 2014 Under-17 World Cup. She scored 7 goals in her freshman year when she only played half of the season. And then earlier this year in August, he was quoted as calling her one of the world's most promising prospects. Her sophomore season, this season, she's played in 17 games, has 15 goals, 5 of those game winners, and she has also collected 3 assists. And again, Rapinoe's quote, "You've got someone on the list that I have never heard of." It's I don't know if heartbreaking would be a good word for it. It's probably not, but it's somewhere along those lines of a person who's claimed to be such a advocate for the women's game, for her to do this, and for her, she always seems calculated. She always seems to the risk she takes. She knows what she's doing, and she's thought about it, and she's thought about the word she's going to use and how she's going to relay her message. And this was just a terrible effort by her, something that seems like she was caught in the moment and made to have a quote, and this is the best that she could come up with, and it's nowhere near true, nowhere near representative of what Castellanos brings to the women's game. And there's honestly a very good chance that this Venezuelan team, led by Castellanos, at some point meets up with the U.S. As Rapinoe declines. That would be a interesting match between those two countries. One that I now, with the loss of respect that I have for Rapinoe, would very much be willing to watch. And that loss of respect builds and builds each day that we don't hear anything from Rapinoe.
And I'm just trying to see if I can find what kind of setting that she was in when she said it, because you're exactly right. She's someone who has seemed so calculated in her answers, and that this kind of seemed to me in a way like a slip up. Like, I think she meant it, but maybe not so much in the setting that she was in, or something along those lines. This is the last player that I would have ever expected a comment like this to come from, let alone I wouldn't have expected it from anybody at her level. But
yeah, I mean, who
I kind of felt like it was one of those things where she's just talking with some friends and someone happened to be recording her or something, and then it got leaked kind of type of thing. Whereas if it was a professional setting, then I'd be.
Yeah, well, this was supposedly an interview with The Guardian.
Oh, okay.
Oh. And I haven't found, because I was looking for a clip or a initial press release from The Guardian, but couldn't find anything on that. Yeah, and just trying to think if she hasn't heard of her, then I guess who has she heard of? Unless she doesn't have any clue what's going on at the international level, and she only focuses on the American game, which
right
is hard to believe. You don't want to believe.
Right. Seems like that though.
Yeah, but then again, either way, you would think she would come out with some type of statement in the days following, and she has.
Right. That, yeah. Maybe she's calculating the apology too long.
Yeah.
Or she is calculating the apology too long. I should say she should. Or she is.
Other things we can talk about. You have anything else?
Not too much. I guess going back to the W League. So their main website is actually very informative when you go and click on each match that has happened, and it tells you the attendance at the game. So I've written those down, and then have kind of compared them to the NWSL in a general sense. So by far, the biggest was the Newcastle Jets versus Western Sydney Wanderers, and coming in at 4168, and that was in Newcastle. The lowest was Melbourne Victory versus Canberra United, and that was 500 in Melbourne. Now, if you're looking at the matchups, you would think that Perth Glory versus Melbourne City would have been attendance, just in the sense of who you're thinking who's on the team. Melbourne City's won the title the past 2 years. 08. And the average NWSL attendance was what, just over 5,000 this past year?
Yeah, sounds right.
So hopefully attendance will increase for the W League.
Will you be able to look up average for years if you can find that? W League?
Let me see.
You don't have to do it right now. Their next games are Friday, is that right?
Yeah, Friday and Saturdays.
Friday and Saturday.
So, average attendance is 1404, at least as of last season. So 2 teams were over that average of last year, and 2 were under.
Who holds that information?
As far as attendance?
Yeah, the what you just found. Where did you find that out?
That was on, I do believe it was on the W League main site. You go to, I think they call it fixtures is what they're.
Yeah.
It's kind of all backwards. It's like fixtures and ladders. And fixtures is the schedule essentially and results. So it will pop up, it will show up all the results from round 1, and you click on each result, and it will show you who scored at what time, attendance, where it was played, and then I think it shows fouls too, or cards at each minute as well. It's actually kind of cool. The site is awesome. If you click on the individual matches, it's very, very informative.
You're saying somebody should take notes?
Someone should definitely take some notes. It's information overload, which is good. Then you just get to overanalyze everything.
Yeah, well, thanks for that.
That's all that I had.
That's all you had? Okay. Couple of things to finish up with for me. There's a big matchup in women's hockey on the collegiate level this weekend. Number 1, Wisconsin swept the number 6 Golden Gophers today. They won in overtime. Originally scheduled to be aired on the Big Ten Network at 3:00 p.m. That was then pushed back to 5. And then last word of that was, I think, a week ago on the 22nd. And then I got on the guide today and saw whatever. They're showing replays of football games. I am still waiting to hear back from Big Ten Network. I've sent them 2 tweets. with that as a subject. I've emailed them before with no success on this subject, and I think the last one I sent was about the esports taking priority over women's sports. So we'll see if I can get anything out of them this time around.
Mm-hmm.
Badger Women's Hockey, their account did tweet me back and let me know that it wasn't going to be aired, so that was nice of them to let me know. But Wisconsin takes a sweep from Minnesota, and then in soccer, Wisconsin also beat Minnesota, so the Badgers move on to the second round of the Big Ten tournament to play Friday in Indianapolis, actually Westfield. They're at Grand Park, so it'll be Ohio State and Penn State. I think they'll play at noon, and then Wisconsin will play against Northwestern as Lauren Clem against Caitlin Clem will be playing at 2:30. Those two winners go to the championship on Sunday. I'll be there on Friday to watch both those games, and looking forward to that. So I guess it won't be till Sunday that I have an update, but looking forward to it.
Who do you got winning? What's the score line for our game?
For our game against Northwestern?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess I'll have something ready by Thursday. Right now, I'm undecided. The game is still playing in my head. They're in like the 37th minute. I can't see the scoreboard, so I'll let you know Thursday.
You can't see the scoreboard, but we have like 10 shots on goal.
Yeah, right. It's
or 10 shots in general.
Yeah.
We haven't scored yet.
5 corners. We scored on the corner today, so that was a good start.
that was good.
That was good. So thank you to Sammy Kleedke for the great volley in, and Maya Sella for
Thank you to Danny Rhodes for the hustle.
However tall vertical you have. Danny Rhodes for the hustle. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks everybody. Man, that team's awesome. Okay, but that is it from me. That's it from you, Alyssa. Mm-hmm. Okay, then we will be back on Thursday evening. And thank you for stopping by the Hera Press Box.